The soft glow of candlelight flickered across the pristine white tablecloth. Soft jazz played from the speakers as I straightened my tie and checked that everything was perfect for our anniversary dinner. "Honey, I'm home." Lila's sweet voice rang out as her key turned in the lock. I rounded the corner, a broad smile stretching across my face. "Welcome back, beautiful." Lila stepped inside, seeming a bit disheveled with her blouse untucked and hair mussed. An uneasy feeling settled in my gut, but I pushed it aside. Her eyes went wide at the romantic table setting. "Sam, you really didn't have to go through all this trouble." "Of course I did. It's our 10-year anniversary, a night to celebrate my incredible wife." I pulled out her chair gallantly. She sat down stiffly as I poured 2 glasses of her favorite Cabernet. Throughout the tense dinner, Lila seemed distracted and far away. Something was definitely off about her demeanor. When I finally broached the subject, she flinched. "It's nothing, really. I'm just not feeling 100% tonight." I knew in my bones she was lying, and it felt like a knife to the heart. Over our decade of marriage, I thought we'd built an unshakable foundation of love and trust. Now that foundation was cracking. After Lila retreated to the bathroom, I noticed her phone on the table. A nagging suspicion caused me to pick it up, feeling guilty even as I checked her messages. That's when I saw it, a cryptic message from someone named D about meeting up later at a hotel. Ice flooded my veins as the terrible truth began to take shape. Digging deeper, I unearthed a hidden email account filled with damning evidence. Emails, photos, everything pointing to Lila having an affair with her coworker Damien. And not only that, but it seemed Damien had been pumping her for information about my business dealings. The bloody betrayal of it all made me shake with rage. I loved Lila with every fiber of my being. How could she do this to me? To us? And that snake Damien clearly had an angle, using my wife's emotions to slither his way into my company. Over my dead body, blind with hurt and fury, I started putting a plan into motion. I would confront Lila and Damien, make them confess their deception in front of everyone we knew. The whole world would know what liars and cheaters they were. Then, once I exposed their twisted betrayal, I would burn their lives to the ground, starting with Damien's career and working my way towards utterly destroying my soon-to-be ex-wife. I would make them beg for mercy. If they thought this was just some cheap fling they could walk away from, they had another thing coming. This was war, and I didn't intend to take any prisoners. In the aftermath of discovering Lila's betrayal, my mind ran a fevered loop of rage, devastation, and the single-minded need for vengeance. I loved that woman with everything I had. How could she shred my heart into pieces like this for some cheap fling? And that worm Damien, using my wife's affair to try wriggling his way into my business. They would both pay dearly for their deception. I started by putting together an elaborate plan to expose their lies before all our friends and family. It would be a spectacle they'd never forget. A masquerade ball to celebrate our anniversary where the ones truly hiding behind masks would be Lila and her lover. Invitations went out under the pretense of an opulent party marking 10 blissful years of marriage. Of course, blissful was the last word I'd use now that I knew the truth. Still, I played the part of the happily wedded husband to the hilt, describing my overwhelming love for my dear Lila in saccharine terms. Everyone fell for the sugary deception hook, line, and sinker. Even Lila herself, who looked slightly ill when I presented her with the ornate invitation complete with real gold leaf lettering. "Sam, this is too much," she murmured, avoiding my eyes. I brushed her concern aside with a brilliant smile. "Nonsense. This is our anniversary, the perfect opportunity to celebrate the love we share." Guests arrived in extravagant masks and gowns, none more lavishly attired than Lila herself in a shimmering emerald dress that clung to every lush curve. If I didn't know the truth, I might have fallen for her breathless act as the blushing, beautiful bride all over again. But I knew better now. My eyes tracked Lila like a hunter sizing up its prey as she swept through the crowd, greeting friends and making small talk with the easy charm of a con artist. Only when she spotted Damien across the ballroom did that perfect facade crumble for the briefest flicker of a moment. In another life, I may have missed the way her lips parted unconsciously, or how her fingers toyed with her diamond necklace in a nervous gesture. They were well and truly caught in my trap now. I had paid handsomely to ensure Lila and her lover ended up partnered together, masks covering their treacherous faces, but unable to hide the sparks of illicit desire as they whirled across the dance floor. Over the next few hours, I delighted in orchestrating a series of events designed to fill them with a slow creeping dread. Waiters stumbling and nearly spilling drinks over Damien's expensive suit. The lighting focused a bit too warmly on their twined forms. Small, subtle moments building towards an exquisite discomfort. The finale came when I stood before the crowd with two crystal flutes raised high, prepared to give a heartfelt toast to the love of my life. Damien and Lila stood poised beside me in their finery, utterly oblivious to the reckoning to come. Friends, family, I began, my voice ringing through the hall. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight to celebrate a truly special occasion, the 10th anniversary of my marriage to Lila, the most precious woman in my life. Damien shifted uncomfortably while Lila watched me with wide, anxious eyes. Good. Let the snakes start to feel the noose tightening. They say love is blind, but in our case, I think it was more a case of being blind to betrayal. You see, I recently discovered that my beautiful wife hasn't been quite so faithful after all. Gasps rippled through the crowd as I pulled an envelope from my jacket's inner pocket. And it seems her accomplice in deceit was someone I thought was a friend, Damien, my wife's coworker. Sam, please? Lila whispered, her voice cracking with dread. I ignored her plea, pulling out a glossy photo that left no doubt as to the nature of her indiscretion. Her and Damien locked in a desperate, hungry embrace, his hands roaming across the curves I used to worship. More appalling photos scattered across the tile in a profane trail as I emptied the envelope, each one more damning than the last until the truth was laid bare before everyone's stunned eyes. Oh God! Lila choked out a sob, tears streaking the elegant mask painted across her cheekbones. Damien, for his part, had gone a mottled red-purple like an about-to-burst blood blister. His mouth worked uselessly for a few moments before he stammered, This doesn't mean what you think. Save it. I cut him off with a look of pure disgust. You slithered your way into my wife's bed, used her to try getting intel on my business. I have all the proof I need of what depraved snakes you both are. I turned my back on their crumpled, humiliated forms to address the dumbstruck guests once more. So please, everyone raise your glasses and join me in a toast to true love and the consequences of betraying it. Ice clinked against crystal as they complied, utterly speechless in the face of this spectacular marital implosion. As I threw back the bitter contents of my own glass, I caught Lila's broken gaze. Sam, she mouthed, reaching out imploringly. Too little, too late. Her debt would be paid in full soon enough, along with her co-conspirator. For now, I just wanted to drink in their shame and devastation, because this was merely the opening salvo in my grand campaign of revenge, and I was just getting started. Lila and that snake Damien had been utterly humiliated before all our friends and family, their lies and betrayal laid bare in the most spectacular fashion. But it wasn't enough, not nearly enough to salve the gaping wound they'd torn into my heart and my life with their deception. For Damien, that meant going straight for the professional jugular. I compiled every shred of evidence relating to his shady business dealings, hidden emails, bank records, all the intel my wife's affair granted him access to. Then I put together an airtight case and mailed it anonymously to the authorities. Less than a week later, a SWAT team swarmed Damien's corner office, dragging him out in cuffs as astonished coworkers looked on. He struggled against his restraints, screaming semi-coherent denials and protests of innocence. I could only imagine the look of dumbstruck realization on his face as the cruel truth dawned. In trying to slither his way into my company, he'd only sealed his own doom. That $5 million business venture he'd no doubt promised my wife just became a concrete toilet. While Damien sat in holding awaiting his inevitable sentencing, I turned my focus to utterly dismantling the life Lila had taken for granted at my side. First order of business: ensuring she'd never see a single dime of my hard-earned wealth or the lavish home we'd built together. My lawyer hit her with divorce papers in record time, neatly checked boxes indicating my intention to pursue sole custody of our children. Lila may have walked away from her marriage vows, but I had no intention of letting her abandon her responsibilities as a mother too. During hearings, I presented an excruciatingly detailed record of her transgressions, not just the affair itself, but the shady financial entanglements with Damien's crooked schemes. I painted her as an unfit parent engaged in reckless behavior that put her own family at risk. The judge's face remained an inscrutable mask, but the damning evidence spoke for itself. The court decision utterly blindsided Lila. She broke down into great, heaving sobs when the ruling was read. Full custody granted to me based on a credible history of infidelity and questionable ethical conduct. With shaking hands, she signed over any claim to our fortune or the home she'd been led from in disgrace. For a brief moment, I felt a flicker of pity watching her despair at having literally nothing left. That flicker soon calcified into a razor's-edged satisfaction at a ruination so utterly complete and deserved. Somewhere in the midst of these legal proceedings, Damien ended up convicted on a laundry list of fraud and corruption charges. All his big plans and capitalistic delusions of grandeur amounting to a 15-year prison sentence. I almost hoped he'd make it out the other side, just so I could destroy him all over again. As for Lila, the aftermath left her well and truly destitute in every sense of the word. Stripped of her home, her children, any sense of status or dignity. She crawled back to me one final time in those last wretched days, begging for forgiveness between broken sobs. "Sam, please, I never meant to hurt you this way. I still love you, I swear." I stared back at her impassively. All the anger that had sustained me throughout this grand opus of revenge finally burnt away to cold, dead ashes. You threw away a lifetime of love and family for a fling with a con man who saw you as nothing more than a pawn. Lila flinched at the truth laid bare. "You're not the woman I fell in love with. You're a stranger to me now, and I want you to stay that way." And with that parting condemnation, I turned my back and walked out of her life forever. Damien and Lila got precisely what they deserved. She experienced firsthand the pain of being used, discarded as so much human refuse when she no longer served his needs. And he rotted behind bars with all his big dreams turned to dust and bitter recriminations. It took years to slowly rebuild from the scorched emotional ruins of all I'd lost. I surrounded myself with the few friends who stuck by me throughout the nightmare. Lost myself in growing the business I nearly allowed Damien to defile for his own ends. Focusing on my children, my business, and living a good life has become my new life mantra. And the wounds from Lila's betrayal started to heal. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.